Hello, everyone. Bonnie, could you call the roll, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
I'll talk just a little bit more about welcome to you all. We're very pleased to have a nice full house tonight. We know that means there are a lot of people who did wonderful things, and we look forward to honoring you. With that in mind, the next thing is the Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag is in the back. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would like to register your attendance, there is an attendance sheet in the lobby, and you're welcome to sign it. The next item is the approval of minutes. Bonnie, have you received any corrections to the minutes? No. Does anyone have any corrections at this time? A motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item 3, recognition awards, presentation, and public hearings. This is the tradition of excellence with GHS students and staff.
As Mr. Rogers makes his way up, I'll just, so everybody knows how we do this here, the board's going to come around and stand in the front of the table while Mr. Rogers brags on you a little bit. When he calls your name, come on up and start with Mr. Choi over here and kind of work your way down the line. I should have a certificate for you, and we'll then have you stand in front of our lovely blue Geneva 304 banner, and we'll get some photos taken at the end. So take it away, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barrett and members of the board. We appreciate the opportunity to honor some great students who are doing amazing things at Geneva High School. And we're going to start tonight with 3 members of the boys co-op swim team, the Geneva, Batavia, and West Chicago co-op swim team. Notice I always put Geneva first. I'm sure the other schools put their names first, but it's the Geneva, Batavia, West Chicago co-op swim team. Well, you're going to steal my speech here. Mr. Walkington whispered in my ear, Geneva carries it, by the way. Yes, we're going to find that out as we recognized 3 young men who qualified for the state finals with that co-op swim team. And I'm going to introduce each of the boys, and as they go up and shake hands with the board members and Dr. Barrett, I will then, as they're making their way down the line, share what events they qualified in, as well as the sectional accomplishments, because these boys were part of the sectional championship team. As a team, they earned that IHSA sectional championship, and then in the process, as you'll hear, they qualified for individual and relay events, which was held at the Westmont Natatorium on February 28th through March 1st. Starting with, congratulations, Jace Christensen. Jace was on the sectional champion 200-yard medley relay team and also qualified for the state finals on the sectional champion 200-yard freestyle relay team. Next up, Brady Jordan. Brady was a member of the 200-yard medley relay at the sectionals, and then also, and that team, again, was the sectional champs. He was on the sectional runner-up 400-yard freestyle relay team that qualified for state. He was also the 200-yard freestyle individual sectional champion, and then at the state meet finished 10th in the state on Saturday. Was also a 100-yard backstroke individual qualifier when he placed 3rd at the sectionals, and then finished 16th in the state on Saturday. And then was also a member of the 200-yard freestyle relay team that finished 10th in state on Saturday. And the 3rd state qualifier from Geneva High School, Nate Walkington. Nate was a member of that 200-yard freestyle relay team that earned a sectional championship and took 10th in the state on Saturday. He was also a member of the 400 freestyle relay team, which earned a sectional runner-up, and the 200 individual medley sectional champion, and then swam at state in that event, and was also swimming in the state meet in the 100 butterfly after he finished as the sectional runner-up. So as you can tell, and as Mr. Walkington reminded me, these guys were in a vast number of events at the IHSA swim meet. Congratulations to the three of them. None of them are seniors, correct? So we have more swimming success to look forward to. So congratulations, boys. Parents, if you'd like to get up and take pictures after Mr. Baker is done, feel free to jump up there. All right, once again, congratulations to our state swimmers. Next, back on March 5th through the 7th, we had Geneva High School DECA state qualifiers. And the list of students that I'm going to read, all of them earned some type of award at the DECA state competition. DECA, by the way, is a state business curriculum competition, and our students regularly succeed as a result of the leadership of Mrs. Jamie Dunlap and Mr. Eric Mays from our business department at the high school. In addition to earning awards at that state competition, there are also some students that I will note who have qualified for the international competition to be held in Atlanta, Georgia in April. So Mrs. Dunlap will be taking a group of students to Atlanta, and I'll note those accomplishments as we go along. So I know that not everyone is here tonight, but we will recognize everyone, starting with Ben Banks. Ben earned a top 10 finish in professional selling. Congratulations to Mina Choi. Mina finished in 3rd place in apparel and accessories making and has qualified for the international competition. In addition, she took home a 1st place award in the role play competition for apparel and accessories marketing. Alexa Koski. Alexa finished in the top 10 in financial consulting. Hamza Faruqi. Hamza was part of a 2-person team with Fez Siddiqui, who I also believe is not here. They earned 2nd place in the role play competition in the travel and tourism marketing competition. Next up is Cam Fozo. Cam was part of a 3-person finance operations research team, and I'll introduce the other 2 members of his team momentarily. But Cam was also an individual in the quick serve restaurant management competition. He earned 2nd place with his 3-person team, as well as 2nd place for his quick serve restaurant management competition, and has qualified for international competition in both events. Josh Frieders. Josh participated in the Principles of Hospitality and Tourism competition, where he earned 5th place and has qualified for the international competition. Reese Gimry. Reese earned a top 10 in the Hospitality and Tourism Professional Selling competition, and also a 2nd place on the exam for Apparel and Accessories Marketing. Shivangi Goyal. Shivangi earned 6th place in the retail merchandising competition and has qualified for the international competition. Will Hansberger. Will was part of a 2-person team that competed in the stock market game, and they earned tops in the Midwest and have qualified for the international competition, and Will also earned a top 10 finish in professional selling. Nishka Jain. Nishka competed in the International Business Plan competition where she earned a top 10 finish at state. Erin Mason Cup. Erin was person 2 of 3 on the Finance Operations Research team along with Cam. And as I noted earlier, that team earned 2nd place and qualified for international competition. Next is Charlie Mondi. Charlie earned a top 10 finish in the Hospitality and Tourism Professional Selling competition. Joe Padgett. Joe was Will Hansberger's partner in the stock market game, and as I mentioned, finished tops in the Midwest region and is qualified for the international competition. Brennan Post. Brennan is the 3rd member of the Cam, Aaron, and Brennan Finance Operations Research team, and they earned 2nd place and are advancing to the international competition. And finally, Cole Stebbin. Cole competed in the Hospitality and Tourism Professional Selling competition and earned a top 10 at state. So these are a number of the representatives who did an amazing job at the DECA competition, and good luck. First of all, congratulations to all of you for qualifying for state, earning awards at state, and for those of you advancing to the international competition, fantastic job and good luck.
Swimmers, we're going to have you use your athletic prowess to get out of the way of it. So as fast as you can.
Pick up your step and move.
I think you guys should shift a little bit more. Perfect. Thanks, fellas. Everybody's smiling, got them pointed straight up. Okay. I think they're practiced at this. Thanks, everybody. Parents? Thanks, boys.
Everybody got the pictures they wanted? All right, congratulations, DECA. And our last recognition from GHS tonight is an opportunity to recognize one of our faculty members, in particular, Lynn Fors, a Spanish teacher at Geneva Community High School. And to share more about the award that is being given to Lynn Fors, I'd like to thank and introduce Liz Simpson, a fantastic AFS local volunteer, and she is going to share information about the award that Lynn Fors, Geneva High School Spanish teacher, has received.
Thank you. As Mr. Rogers said, I am Liz Simpson, and I am a local volunteer for AFS USA. AFS USA empowers people to become globally engaged citizens by delivering meaningful intercultural experiences that provide the knowledge and skills needed to help create a more just and peaceful world. Each year, AFS awards the Global Educator Award to an educator who has made global engagement and intercultural learning a part of their everyday instruction and school environment. I nominated Lynn Fors for this award for her influence as a Spanish teacher, her long-time role as advisor to the GHS International Club, and her involvement with AFS. Lynn has welcomed around we figured maybe over 100 kids that have been foreign exchange students in Geneva since she started the club. And and she also, as well as, of course, the kids in Geneva who attend International Club. So I am pleased to present Lynn Fors with this award, which recognizes her as a finalist for the AFS Global Educator Award.
Thank you again, Dr. Barrett and board members, for the opportunity. We'll see you again next month.
Oh, yes, congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, very nice. Yep, yep.
Trying to put it together. Trying to put it together. Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yes. All three, yeah.
Be here a while. Yeah, he's stuck for a while.
All right. Oh, no, they're, well, Lindsay Nola's one's back for spring break. Yeah.
Thank you. You have a younger one.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, he's seventh grade, right?
Here with the rest of us. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
They don't know they can leave. I think they're getting ready, yeah.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, see, we were able to honor all of those fine people, and now we've got much more room for you all. Next item is item 2 on this agenda, the Elementary Literacy Project Update and Proposal. Would you like to say that?
Yeah, I'll just pass it off to Mrs. Sims. I think the board knows there's been a lot of work by a lot of people over the last couple years to get us where we are today. And Mrs. Sims and the team, I think the large accomplished team is about to make their way in. And plenty of seats in the front row, everyone. Plenty of seats in the front row. Mrs. Sims, it's all yours.
I'll give everyone a second to get settled. Whichever one's easier for you to get up and down.
10-minute presentation by each committee member tonight?
Yes.
Oh, no?
Wait a minute, I get a vote on this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. This is the majority of our committee, so first of all, we're very thankful they were able to join us tonight. Some of them will be sharing their experiences as well, and then if there are questions that they can assist with, they will assist with questioning as well. So as you alluded to, Dr. Barrett, yes, this is the culmination of a lot of work. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mezis to start us off with the presentation, and then we'll be taking turns.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. We are very excited this evening to move forward with a recommendation to the school board for HMH into reading for our adopted literacy curriculum to start next school year. As you recall, if you recall this image, this is Scarborough's rope. These are all of the components that go into what we call skilled reading. The bottom portion of Scarborough's rope refers to, word recognition. Word recognition includes things like phonological awareness, decoding, and sight recognition. For that part of the rope, we do have really great reading as our foundational skills curriculum. A few years ago, our classroom teachers gave Shawnette and I some very much needed and appreciated feedback on the language comprehension portion of Scarborough's Rope. And at that time, we began a journey with this group and many others to begin looking at a resource that would target the upper portion here, the language comprehension portion of Scarborough's Rope.
So just to recap the journey, this journey actually began pre-COVID and then in earnest again about 3 years ago. We started talking about, just as a committee, like what is it we need to know about effective literacy instruction. So we spent time delving into, the current research as well as the 40 years worth of research that has been out there about literacy instruction and reading. We did some work with how the brain learns to read and had some experts come in and speak to us on some of our institute days. We've also of late been delving into cognitive learning theory and things about things such as that related to how it is that students learn and how we as the adults can learn this new curriculum and the implementation of it. So we also then, as George referenced, we piloted 2 curricula this year. We piloted Benchmark Advance and HMH into reading. Obviously we've settled on one, which is why we're here tonight. Throughout the process of this year, or throughout the process of piloting this year, we've continued to learn and to question. We found both of the representatives from the different curricula very open and approachable. They spent a lot of time with us. We had regular meetings where it was just the opportunity for our piloting staff to ask questions, to seek clarification, and really even to delve into like what ifs, or would it be better if this was in the curriculum. So we've appreciated that. We then engaged in an evaluation process, actually very recently, a week ago tonight, where we looked at the 2 curriculum. We had a series of criteria that we used to evaluate, and then we ultimately settled on a selection, which is, again, HMH into reading. If you'll recall, in this journey, we brought to the board before the Illinois Comprehensive Literacy Plan that was adopted in January of 2024. In these 2 curriculum, we were looking to see that it aligned to these 7 components of literacy, and both do, and the one that obviously we are recommending for consideration does as well. With the really great reading, we're addressing some of these issues. With word wisdom, we're addressing some of these issues, and obviously with that comprehension piece of those strands of like literacy development, we are addressing the others. Pardon me. All this through. What is it that HMH into reading offers? What we liked about the curriculum is that it is comprehensive. It does address foundational skills. So that is an area that we will be looking into. However, that's not something that we're using immediately. The feedback you'll hear from our staff in their collected responses and student collected responses that they loved the text that came with the curriculum. Some of the components of that we liked is that there are texts in hands for kids as well. Kindergarten's a little unique with their big books, but otherwise that was one of the criteria that we had, was that students actually had text in hand, not just screen reading. It also allows for, I'm gonna end up losing my voice before the end of the night, I'm sorry. It also allows for differentiation where needed, both in the classroom and then outside of the classroom where there's need for that. If a student needs additional support, both within our reading program or also within like our area of MTSS. And one of the things that we knew we needed, it may help, it may not, thank you. It'll be really quiet in my house by the end of the week. The other thing that this has that we knew from the feedback from the staff was that was lacking in what we were trying to create ourselves as a district. For immediate feedback, we would have gotten there, but it would have taken a longer period of time, were assessments. And assessments not only for immediate feedback for the classroom teacher to plan accordingly for their students within the classroom, but also some assessment data that we could use as a district to evaluate how well and effective the program is being, and also to determine, if there are any gaps in anything that, in that whole continuum of literacy development.
So A few key components of the program that I believe all of our piloting teachers recognize was the diverse literature and writing components of the program. Lots of robust resources, not only for our teachers, but our students as well. Mrs. Sims spoke a little bit about the comprehensive assessment tools that are used, both in the immediate, where teachers can use that data to then guide what happens in small group instruction based on student need, but also as a district to identify, whether or not this program is working and our students are benefiting from it. There's a combination of digital and print resources, which was very important for our teachers. We wanted opportunities for students to have resources in their hands, but also the digital resources that were available, students fell in love with as well. And there's also an intervention portion of this. So if students are struggling, there are portions of this program that can be utilized as a tier 2 intervention, either in small group instruction or even with a smaller group with a specialized person or reading specialist to deliver that intervention if needed. All right, so I will turn over the microphone now to some of our piloting teachers who will speak to the experiences they have had in piloting into reading.
And
Hi.
have that mic nice and close so they can hear you on YouTube.
Okay. My name is Lauren Wagner, and I teach 4th grade at Williamsburg. And I'd like to start off by saying that even though the piloting period is over, I'm still using this as a resource in my classroom for not only the reading components, but also for the writing and the grammar. So I'm very excited that we're moving towards recommending this program. The modules focus on 3 weeks of structure. So the first week we'll start off with one text that is fairly long, but also really engaging to students and fun for teachers to teach, because I think that's important too. Week 2 will usually be split up into 2 different stories, and then the last week will be an additional story as well. All of them in different genres. So the genres spiral throughout the year, but we're not teaching specific to fantasy or specific to realistic fiction. And even if we're spending 1 week on a certain text, each day we're coming in and looking at it with a new lens and talking about different strategies or skills with that story, and then we'll go back with a different lens the next day. And the writing is used with those mentor texts as a focal point, where we can pull out not only what they're using in the writing, but also with the grammar that they can use inside their own personal writing, as well as identify it within the stories that they're looking at for each module. It's explicitly taught vocabulary for every single story. There are experiences where they can use vocabulary in context. It's building background knowledge, it's looking at literary elements and analyzing the text itself and making those comparisons between the different texts throughout the module unit too. And overall, being able to utilize those skills in their own reading and writing through those intervention lessons and the suggested materials that go with each module.
Hi, I'm Erin Shannon. I teach 5th grade at Western Avenue and also have been piloting. So for our teacher feedback, it was a unanimous decision that all of us agreed that HMH into reading was what we should go with. And essentially, some of what we already shared and what George and Shanette have already shared is just the idea that teachers can get kind of as deep into it as they want. So the manuals are very friendly, the online platform is very friendly, and there are a lot of resources where if you want to use the online platform, that's great for students, but if you have younger learners or that takes too much time to get your computer out, you don't need that for every single lesson. So it's definitely very user-friendly. Even our manual has the questions right there that you need to ask, so someone can pick it up and is really able to just teach it from day one, and then you can dig in as the time goes on. For students, the biggest thing for them was that it was really engaging. So something that students loved is called class craft, and those are the slides that can be teacher or student facing, but can also students can be on engaging with that text. They can do quick responses. There are feedback questions right in there, so teachers can immediately see, hey, do they understand this vocabulary word? What do I need to go back and reteach? The kids love seeing their own responses on the screen. And then I think one of my favorite parts was just the student choice that it allowed. So letting students, you know, if they want to read the story on their own, if they want to listen to it, if they missed a day of school and want to go back to listen to it, and all of those things are available. You can set assignments so that you can easily see them, but all of the texts are available without you having to assign them. So students can just pop it open. They know exactly where to go. They were just doing it today. They said, can I listen to it instead? We said, absolutely. And then they had an option of whether they wanted to type or write their responses. So that student choice piece also really helped them stay engaged. And then just the content, they really enjoyed it. It was a mix of enough genres and then enough science and social-based concepts that they really enjoyed it. So their feedback was overwhelmingly positive from a student perspective, 3.35. Thumbs up from the kids.
Well, Mrs. Sims is coming up. I might just add very quickly. I think Aaron noted that the committee was unanimous. 100% of the committee was unanimous in selecting this resource. I've been on a lot of committees selecting a lot of resources. Never, ever, one time have I been on one where there was 100% unanimity in selecting a resource, and most of the committees weren't as big as this one. So that I really think that says a lot, that the entire committee felt that way. So that's pretty cool.
I would also share, Lauren referenced, we are going to have our pilot team teachers continue with HMH throughout the end of this school year. So the company, knowing that the decision is not final until board approval, they are still going to ship those materials out so that our students wouldn't have to shift between now and the end of the school year, you know, to adjust again. So we've referenced this a little bit, but again, the ease of access for the assessments, that was a critical piece when we were, you know, seeking feedback from the work we were doing before looking for a published product. So again, this idea of the daily formative check-ins is great. It really gives our teachers the opportunity to on the fly in the moment understand, you know, where students are and what their thinking is. And then it also, with some of that class craft stuff, it to a certain extent can almost be like gamified in terms of you can put it up there and they can see like their responses, they can see how they compare to others. I know one of our teachers had shared that the students themselves, like, you know, challenge themselves to come on, we can do it and get it right. So all of that is, you know, a benefit to the program. The other thing that is beneficial, as you guys will recall from many, many years ago when the Common Core state standards were adopted, there are numerous standards that have to be addressed at each grade level and in, you know, all the content areas. And as it relates to literacy, as you can imagine, there are, you know, upwards of 100 that have to be addressed. There are actually assessments that can be given that will pinpoint down to the standard and the skill where a student might still need a little extra support. So again, that's some immediate feedback that can be given to teachers in an easier fashion than where they might have to dig for it in another manner. They can actually go on, take a quick assessment, they get those results, and it again tells them what they can utilize. And the program itself has additional lessons and activities that they can utilize and assign.
Our focus right now now shifts to planning pending board approval. So a big part of, you know, the success of any program is putting together appropriate professional development for all of our teachers so we could ensure a smooth transition. We've already been in talks with HMH into reading. They would be moving us to a different team so they could share with us. They've done this many, many times before, so we're looking for their feedback while we'll also provide them with the time that we have in our school year to receive this professional development. We are coordinating the distribution of all the materials that will come. There's a lot of materials. So organizing these in each of our buildings to make sure that they are ready for all of our teachers on the first day of school, if not before then. And of course, ongoing coaching and support that is part of that professional development plan throughout next school year. and of course communicating to our families all that is involved in this program, and how they could support us at home, and how we could support their children here at school. So the cost of this program is right around $724,000. It translates to about $38 $38 per student. And that includes all of the digital resources, the print resources, the assessments, all of those things. And that is for 6 years. I forgot to mention that's a 6-year cost. It's not per year. And of course, we would love to thank our pilot teachers and the committee in general for all of their work. It is not easy to pilot 2 programs. Our students start off the year learning the lesson language, and our teachers start off the year learning the lesson language of a specific program, the routines that are connected to that program, gathering feedback, connecting with students, only to then shift to a new program and learn all of those routines, be familiar with that new lesson language, and the spiraling that takes place. And so that is a huge task to take on, and they've done a great job coming back month after month, sharing their feedback, their honest feedback, so we could come to an informed decision. So for those that are here today and for those that are not here today, we sincerely thank them for their time and effort in piloting these programs, so we could make a recommendation to you today that we feel confident about. So, thank you all. Oh. And so, questions?
I have a
Yes.
question. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not trying to muddy the waters, but numeracy is, of course, different from literacy. My question is, to the extent that children, and I know you know this, have difficulty with word problems, and the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, as you know, one of the bedrock things they do is emphasize the reading component, knowing what they're looking for, when and how. So if you have a child that's having struggle with math with word problems, is there something, I like what I see, but I just wonder what happens then for those children that struggle with just comprehending that reading component for math?
Yeah, I would say what currently is happening is that, first of all, they, as you can imagine, they break apart those story problems.
Right.
Making sure they understand, first of all, what is the mathematical vocabulary that they need to know, sum, dividend, quotient, etc. Yeah. And then they start to pull out the, relevant information from the, extra information. But again, hopefully, with a robust literacy curriculum where they're learning to, expand their vocabulary and sound out words and decode unknown words, that will help with that. But again, they still have to pull apart what is the math from the story problem.
Right, and I know that those are 2 different areas, literacy and numeracy. I just wondered, because the children I've worked with, they struggle with the word problems because they don't understand the language. And so I just wondered, do you work with math teachers? I mean, does it just kind of an island by itself?
I mean, you would think that, Dr. Premez has paid you $5 for that question, because he's going to be coming forward in the next year for sure, because the next elementary middle school lift will be a math curriculum. So I'm sure as they begin researching that, all of that will be part of that, and that math,
That's
literacy,
good.
and vocabulary.
Yeah. Very good. Go ahead.
I will add to that. The Illinois numeracy plan will be published this summer, and that will kind of serve as the start of our work as a district. We've already put together a numeracy committee that I'm sure will tackle a lot of the issues you mentioned today.
I did have a question, but first I wanted to say thank you to everybody. I know this was a lot of work, that not only the pilot, but all the discussions to get to this point. And honestly, I was telling Mrs. Sims, this isn't where I thought we were going to land, but I'm so glad that you all are so confident in this, because I am too. I did have a question, though, just through this conversation about the online piece, and I'm sure with any new curriculum, it was going to have a heavy digital presence, but we do have families who are really concerned about the amount of time that our youngest learners have on the screen. So it does sound like we have options and choices, or at least choices for the students. are we starting to think about what structure or guidelines or even just strict parameters we have about how much digital time we're having, how much actual like books in hands or discussion or non-digital time we're having with the youngest learners? Because it sounds like more is available, so I just think we have to be aware of that as we're heading into rolling it out.
Yeah, I would say those are cursory conversations at this point. However, the curriculum itself does dictate that. So for example, in kindergarten, and we have two of our kindergarten reps here, it's a big book, whole class read aloud. So that is actually text that they're seeing. It's not necessarily in their hand, but it's not something from the screen that they're reading. If I'm incorrect, Dominique or Lynn, feel free to, you have to come up to the microphone though if you're going to respond, because otherwise.
You can't talk from your seat. We have to hear you in the microphone. Again, we need you on YouTube. We need you on YouTube.
You know, I've always, being a kindergarten teacher, I've always got our youngest learners in mind all the time. And that was a concern of mine as well. Is it going to be too heavily, you know, online? Are they going to need to use their computer? And we can teach the kindergarten curriculum completely without any use of technology. We like it for certain pieces because we can show a focus chart that we just made, where we're headed, what we're learning, what kind of knowledge we're building. So those pieces are really nice to project to all the students, but we can also make that, we also have paper copies that if we weren't using it at all, we could put on the wall. So yeah, that was a concern of mine, but I feel like we can do it if it did come to kindergarten teachers or kindergarten parents saying, hey, I really don't want my child on technology.
That's great to hear. And I think there's a huge difference between what's projected and if kids are on their individual screens. So even hearing that that's the limited amount of digital is great to hear, and that we're thinking about that as we're teaching.
And they do have the opportunity to do all those other things as well. So it is there for them to try or to, but it's not necessary. Yeah, in all grades.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, one question. I mean, it sounds like you have a very strong recommendation for this, but was there any part of this when you went back and looked at it, you said this part could be stronger, and you took it back to the HMH, and are they tweaking it to strengthen that? Is there anything in that area that we should know about that needs further development?
Yeah, so one of the areas that we feel, the feedback from those that we're teaching it every day feel could be a little more robust is the writing, especially if you think of like the formulaic or essay writing. So we did take that back to our sales rep at this point. I mean, that we haven't been put in contact with any of our PD providers or anything like that, and that's information that so there are many other districts that are piloting this year. So it's information they have heard. And at this point, it's just where they're aware that they're hearing that, but they haven't, commented that what the solution would be. But that would really be the one area. Any other areas that I'm remiss in?
Yeah.
I have.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just have well, one question just came up as Paul was asking, but what does HMH stand for? I guess I just didn't know.
Hardcourt.
Putin Mifflin Harcourt.
Yeah, I'm thinking of it.
It's the publishing company. It's the name of the company.
It's the one right down the street. Is that 25 or 31?
Okay.
Right on 31, right there on 31.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mifflin Harcourt, yep.
That wasn't my question. I just thought about it as Paul was stumbling through the acronym. Part of the implementation plan on your slide talked about the family communication and engagement. Could you explain what that looks like for those that are watching?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our plan fully is to notify our parents and community of all of the components that Into Reading offers, and the scope and sequence. The great thing about this program, it is thematic. So every module is a different theme that spirals, from kindergarten through 5th grade. So communicating, when we say communicating with families, letting them know all that is offered, what resources they could use at home. Of course, sharing with them the assessments, that we are providing and how we are using that data to kind of guide our small group instruction. So I think at the most basic level, communicating with our stakeholders and our parents and letting them know this is a new curriculum. And so and that's another piece that Interreading offers. They have a whole community engagement part that we plan on kind of sifting through and identifying what's appropriate to share with our families.
Anyone else? Oh, Willard.
Yeah, just one last thing. I want to again commend you for all the hard work you've done. There's a old adage of when you're aligned, you know, it's hard to break, you know, and I like the alignment of the unanimous support. I have one question, and it was related to the writing, and I was taking notes here. So, and I understand what I wrote here from my notes, that if a child needs remediation, that you have a mechanism for that. So the question is, as you know, written expression carries the same tenets of reading comprehension. So when a child is going through the remediation rather, is there a trigger or a criteria where a child needs, say, special help, like from a speech pathologist, when that doesn't work, so that they don't fall through the cracks? Because I've seen my share of children, or actually parents, who are in a panic that the child is in grade 5 and they can't construct a paragraph and then they need speech therapy. So how do you make that decision?
Yeah, so we look at our universal data assessments that we give to all students. We have an MTSS plan that looks at specific.
Can you share what MTSS is?
Yes, a multi-tiered system of support. Thank you, Dr. Barrett. In the world of education, we get lost sometimes in acronyms, and we forget that. So multi-tiered system of support. So we are currently working through developing what those tiers look like. You know, we have defined criteria of what qualifies a student for tier 2 support and tier 3. We're fine-tuning that. We've started that work this past year, and are working with our reading specialists and our classroom teachers to identify what that system looks like. But at the heart of this, we start with student data, and then our schools meet multiple times throughout the year as a data team to begin the conversation with that data, but then also ask the teacher, what are you seeing in the classroom? Does this match what you're seeing with students? And so ultimately what we want to do is we want to keep that student in the classroom first to receive that small group, that first level of support within the classroom with small group instruction. But sometimes that student requires a little bit more. So we move to a tier 2 level of support. That tier 2 level of support could mean a couple things. It could mean we're meeting with that student more frequently in the classroom, or we're pulling that student out with a specialist outside of the classroom to receive that level of support. So we are working through those guidelines and that criteria. I think we've made some great gains this year in identifying what those are. But like everything, it's a work in progress. Yeah.
It's probably a presentation next year, though, coming up, I would guess.
Anybody else? A lot of people think school boards do important work, but I know the work you guys are doing is really important, so thank you. Thank you. Item 3. We can give it claps. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
While Mrs. Sims disconnects, so I can sneak on up. Oh, you guys don't want to see my elementary capacity analysis update?
Yeah, we want you to present it both on screen and by books if we like to read the books.
It's only 39 slides, right?
All right. Well, I know occasionally, I make my way up here to share a presentation from the podium instead of from my seat. And it's when we've put a separate item on the agenda that we think kind of should have a little bit more significance than kind of me just sharing from my chair. So I want to have an opportunity tonight to I laid some breadcrumbs about this at our last meeting, and actually we've been talking about a lot of these topics over the course of the last maybe 2 years. And tonight is kind of an opportunity to have kind of a formal conversation that synthesizes some of the big key things we've talked about over the last several years. So much of this is information you've seen before. So for our audience members, if I go through it a little quickly, please know it's because we've talked about this at several board meetings in the past. But I want to recap a little bit of background before we get to one of the things that I think the board is going to need to start considering here for the future. And I think, again, it's important to note that that is the goal when we think about our strategic plan and that whole first goal of enrollment and staffing and right-sizing our district and all that kind of stuff. This fits directly into that. I think the idea here is that we'll get to the end tonight with something that I think the board is going to need to be thinking about here over the next several months to year or so. And hopefully this is some important information for the community to know as well. So again, here's our quick timeline, and we've shared this with you before. We started our strategic plan in 2024. We conducted a demographic study that noted very explicitly our declining and then stabilizing enrollment. And then we had some of those unknowns with new potential developments that we've talked more about, and I'll talk a little bit more about. We also conducted a formal capacity analysis where we looked at how our building usage has evolved over the last decade in terms of different programming models that have been added, different staffing models and additional staff. We talked about our class size targets that we built out of our class size committee that have fostered more consistency across the district. And we also did one of the new key components, last year was this facility conditions assessment that really evaluated, what's the state of our of each of our facilities, and we've talked through that with you all too. And then kind of two new key things that have happened since we last talked. One, obviously, we've had a lot of conversation about this new development out in LaFox, right? And so that's a component to consider with all of this. Along with a presentation that we had to the board earlier this fall. So just to recap very briefly, the new LaFox development is really what I want us to be thinking about today as it relates to the capacity analysis and our demographic study and our conditions assessment. So we know that work continues to progress on this. Development called LaFox of Camden Hills, approximately 900 homes, all that would be within the boundaries of Geneva 304. Theoretically, we understand it'd be a 15 to 20-year timeline till complete build-out. And ultimately, again, there's a lot of unknowns, but the potential for hundreds of new students to the district. So the question we really want to ask and be thinking about, what are the likely implications of this development on our elementary attendance areas? And so in order to answer that, the first thing we've got to reflect back on is what do we know about our elementary capacity and the usage efficiency of our elementary buildings. And again, this is information that we've gone through in previous meetings before, but we're trying to kind of weave that all together. So we'll get at this chart a little bit later, but you'll recall we talked about this in the past where we looked at our enrollment across our elementary buildings and our based on our class sizes, our kind of capacity, our class size capacity at each building. And we went through a kind of whole analysis of that and gave a presentation that kind of had these four key takeaways. One, that we're using our buildings pretty efficiently. Our elementary buildings are all kind of between 70 and 95% capacity when you consider GELP at Fabian, right? Our class size targets at the elementary level really helped establish more consistency across the district. GELP is a strong, robust program. That's the Geneva Early Learning Program, you'll recall, that we know, again, helps enhance our facility capacity at Fabian explicitly. And then there's also this LaFox development that is the new big variable. So this fall we came and made kind of a recommendation, and we said, At this time, we think it's important to maintain our current elementary boundary structure for all the neighborhoods that currently send students to Geneva 304, based on that capacity and how efficiently we were using our buildings. We also recognize the need to have additional conversation about the long-term facility needs for the Geneva Early Learning Program. And we can talk a little bit more about that, and we will. But again, it's housed at Fabian, which helps build up that efficiency usage at Fabian, but we're not sure that's the best long-term solution. And then what we need to do is determine the most appropriate attendance area for any potential new students out of this new development, right? So let's take a look at our boundaries real quick. This is our current boundary map as it exists. This is the entire district, and you'll see as I tried to superimpose there in the top left corner, that's basically where the new LaFox development is. So do you see where I added that in there, right? Okay, so that's basically where the new LaFox development would fall. Right here, currently, that blue boundary, that's within the boundaries of Mill Creek Elementary School, okay? And you'll see that that development is closest to basically the boundaries of 3 of our elementary schools. Again, it's currently within Mill Creek's boundary, and Mill Creek, you'll see, is that blue arrow, or that blue point right there in the corner. Also over there to the west, obviously, is Fabian Elementary School. That's the orange boundary over here. And then here's the Heartland boundary, right? So the next thing we want to do is circle back to this capacity, right? And acknowledge that if you look at, well, let's do that. If you look at Mill Creek, where that neighborhood would currently fall, Mill Creek's current, usage efficiency / capacity is around 76%, right? Heartland, around 72%. And then Fabian, remember, we have kind of a two-pronged piece to this, because Fabian, with GELP included, is high, right? It's above 90%. But if you took GELP out, it would be much lower, and it would be around 55%. So really, we want to be thinking about these 3 boundary areas as we're thinking about what could happen with LaFox of Campton Hills. So the next piece we want to dig into is our demographic trends, as we understand them, at least at this point, and what the implications of that will be. So I thought the easiest way to look at that would be to pull out from our demographic study what those trends looked like for each of those 3 elementary attendance areas, right? So the first would be Mill Creek. And you see here's Mill Creek Elementary, 25, 26. You see, as we would expect, and as we've talked about a lot, right? Those numbers have kind of had that long trajectory down. They're going to come down a little bit, and you see our demographic trends would suggest that it's going to come back up a little bit, right? So Mill Creek, you're going to see those numbers rebound and come back up a little bit. At Heartland, we see something similar, but also based on the trend, a greater likelihood that that number goes up much more significantly, right? So you see at Mill Creek, we've had that kind of long, slow decline, like the whole district, a little bit of a plateau there, and then coming up slightly. At Heartland, we see that decline and that plateau with the potential that that number goes up more significantly. So that's an important factor for us to know here. And then with Fabian, if you look at that, you see that kind of, there's actually not as much of a decline, right? And you'll recall we've had these conversations previously. Actually, for the amount of housing that lies within the Fabian boundary, enrollment within that attendance area has actually stayed pretty stable. And what we see here with these trends is that plateau to likely stay and then potentially even come down some more, okay, in the next several years. So if you look just over here to the west, again, here's where that development would exist. One of the things that you can see here is, again, that development is close, obviously, right to Mill Creek, but also you'll recall that, and I might take the microphone off just to point because it might be a little easier. You'll recall one of the key factors about this development is that all the entry into the development is over here at the west, if you remember this, right? So there's not, even though a lot of this development seems like it's close here to Kesslinger Road and Brundage, which is where Mill Creek sits at this corner, based on all the rules that Campton Hills has established with this development, there's no getting in and out of this development over here. The only place to get in and out of this development is over here, okay? So coming out would be coming either way, coming out and down this way. Did you have a question, Dr. Hooks?
Yeah, so I just was at the train station. I noted they have some construction, road construction. Is that part of this?
You know, I don't think it is yet. That's actually just part of the construction for, you know, there's a big construction project happening here where they're basically extending from LaFox Road out to Bunker, right? Is this Bunker Road, right?
All the way down to Kesslinger, and it'll be a roundabout at Kesslinger.
Right. So it comes down here. And so you can get in and out here, or you'll be able to get in and out here, but there's no road access in there over here. Thank you. Sorry for letting me move there. So, you know, and you can, I've got access to our actual boundary map here. If folks want to go in and play with that and look at that, it's actually pretty slick in a Google map that Mr. Wilkes helped build for us. But based on all that information and putting all that information together, I think that there's some options and considerations that we need to do as a district. And so one of those options I think we need to consider is changing the boundary attendance area for the LaFox of Campton Hills and that surrounding neighborhood area from the Mill Creek boundary area to the Fabian boundary area, okay? And here would be the rationale for that. First, the current Fabian attendance area continues to have limited potential growth. It's just based on the number of households. We talked about this a lot in our demographic study. There are just a much smaller amount of residences in that boundary area compared to the others. And also, as you saw, when we looked back at the projections, our projections would suggest that Mill Creek and Heartland are more likely to see additional enrollment growth in the foreseeable future than Fabian. And the third piece, and I think we've talked about this before, but, well, I know we've talked about this before, but just to reiterate, you know, Fabian and the Geneva Early Learning Program, for a wide variety of reasons, that facility is not an ideal fit for the needs of that program. And we're having a lot of conversations about what that means, but it's just, that's not an ideal fit for that program anyway. So if that's something that we're thinking about, what's the best long-term solution for the Geneva Early Learning Program, and we recognize Mill Creek and Heartland have the potential to see more growth, and we recognize that Fabian, you know, doesn't have as much potential for growth, is this a potential solution? And I think one thing I didn't put here, but important for us to think of, remember that this development, nobody lives there yet, right? So, you know, when you're thinking about boundaries, as we know and as we've talked about before, elementary boundaries can be a very tough and a very emotional conversation sometimes if you're talking about moving families where relationships and everything has been established. But at the moment, there's not even, a shovel hasn't even technically gone in the ground yet, right? So if we were gonna make a change for that new development, you would want to do that before you started, before people started looking at models and all that kind of stuff. You'd want to establish that early. And so that's why we're just trying to be thoughtful and get ahead of the game here and be thinking about that. So again, there's not a need we're not close to having to decide anything right now, but I really wanted to kind of put all those puzzle pieces together for everybody to see and, be able to see on the YouTube and be able to start thinking about and asking questions about. So what are the things we're still needing to think about? Again, one is that long-term location for the Geneva Early Learning Program. We've got to find a more permanent solution for that program. And we're doing a lot of thinking and reflecting on that, and there'll be more information to come there. We need to establish a timeline for decision making about this. Again, I think we don't know, as you know, because we've talked a lot about the LaFox of Campton Hills development. There's still a lot of variables with that in terms of whether or not the village of Campton Hills is going to establish the TIF out there and when they may or may not start on this project. But it would be right to, if you were going to make such a decision, make that decision before that happened. And then the last thing we would need to make sure we did is, and I'm going to maybe come back here, think about the options for current students, because here's a little caveat. This whole development, it would be brand new, but sprinkled throughout there right now are a few residences where families currently live. Okay, so there's, as you noted, Dr. Hooks, there's like a few homes out here around the middle of Campton Hills, and there's, some stuff over here, and maybe a few things up here. So we candidly know right now how many students that is, and it's a very, very small number, and it's even a much, much smaller number when you're thinking about just elementary students. But we would need to make sure we were thoughtful about what we were gonna do and how we were gonna support those families. And I think there's a variety of options that would be very doable and would be welcomed by families who lived out in that area. But that's one of the important things that we're going to have to think ahead on if we want to explore going down that path. So what are our next steps? We're going to keep digging into this more deeply. We're going to get more information about LaFox of Campton Hills. Again, this is as far as that has ever gotten, but it's still not like done yet. So we've got to keep getting information about that and plan for the future of the early learning program, and look to make an ultimate decision here prior to the start of construction for that development. So that's what I kind of wanted to get on the record and get everybody thinking about today. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
The only thing I have, Dr. Barrett, is down over in the Fabian boundary area, there's no talk about development in that land kind of down on the southwest down here, is there?
Yeah, a good question. Right now, no. So there is a lot of open land down there. You see around like Hughes and Bunker. Right now, there's nothing. There are a few small developments. Actually, let me go back here, and I can point to them too. Man, I'm just like Phil Donahue. You know who Phil Donahue is? No, I didn't think so. There are actually a few small developments that we're kind of tracking right now over in this area, of maybe a few dozen houses that, again, we think would be great for Fabian, and we think Fabian could accommodate new students if either of these developments came online. But this is that big spot you're asking about, and right now, nothing.
Anybody else?
Just one question. Have we thought about how long of a bus ride that is for students from that
Yeah.
distance?
Yeah, actually, we have. I've actually spent a good deal of time with Mr. Johnson at Transportation about that. And so again, it's actually, if you're out that way, if you outdrive that, it's actually not that far. And because ingress and egress to the development is already over here, like basically you would come out right to this corner where you just come straight here and straight here to Fabian, and it would be, you know, like kind of two turns really. So it's actually not very far at all. Yeah.
Anyone else? Dr. Barrett, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comments. Bonnie, have you received any requests for public comment? Would anyone like to say anything right now, just for fun? We're always open to receiving public comments. Okay, going ahead, legislative update, item 5, please.
I do not have any report tonight.
So long. That's tough. Superintendent's report. He almost can't get back in time. You could have.
I should have probably, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you know who he is. He's my brother now.
What? Oh. All right, let me go back here. I just have a few quick slides today. So let's go here. Let's go here. Come on. Oh, geez. There we go. I should have just stayed up there. I don't know why I disconnected. I apologize for that. There we go. You don't know Phil Donahue?
Oh my gosh.
He was.
Good for you. Good for you.
I get that all the time. Okay, Phil Donahue, he was a TV talk show guy, the first guy who walked around the audience with the microphone, and no, it was Chicago, right? Wasn't he Chicago? Yeah. He was like pre-Oprah. He was like pre-Oprah.
For Molly's being absolutely silent.
All right, just a couple quick things I want to highlight. First, since we last met, we had our countywide Institute Day, and this is just I think it's important to highlight because it's a really valuable day where all of our staff has an opportunity to do things that I think are pretty meaningful, and it's the day that there's the most variety because all of Kane County and DuPage County have the day off, so that's where there's a lot of options. And so I know our teachers like and appreciate that, especially our high school folks and our specialists. They really appreciate having those days where they can pick something that is targeted to their unique roles. And that can be hard for us as a district if you have teachers who teach some of those more niche or smaller programs. Might be hard for us to develop an opportunity, but when both counties are off, there's more opportunities for that. So that's a good day. And it's also a day that we kind of hold this rotation for safety and reunification training that I know is very valuable for our staff. So just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity for that. I also wanted to highlight just briefly, we've talked about this before, but just what a big impact capital projects can make for our kids. I know we spend a lot of money on capital projects, especially recently as we're seeing a lot of needs. But I met with some students last week in the library at the high school, and just walking in and being there and seeing all these. I mean, you can see down on one end, there's a whole class having a class session. There's different groups of kids meeting in different areas of the space. I got to go and meet with kids in the space. And so we do these kinds of things to create usable and modern facilities that, also are safe and secure for our kids. And by doing this ongoing care and maintenance, I think it really does make an impact for our district, and I just think it's important to acknowledge that we do that. Oh, that went a little fast. And last, I just want to say thanks to our residents and neighbors. We talk a lot about our kids and our families and all the folks who are here, you know, accessing the school every day. But obviously, we talk about this with our demographic study and our demographic trends. There's many households in our district that don't send kids to our school, who still are big supporters of our district, who still come out to events, who still are contributing their tax dollars to make this a great place for kids to learn. And I think it's important to acknowledge them. You know, folks came out when I did my Community Connects events. Folks come out to big community events like, you know, the parade or our Unified Vikings game. Just recently we had some awesome career day opportunities, and citizens from our community came out and helped talk to our kids about that. So we are as grateful for you know, the members of our community who aren't sending kids every day. And to that end, you know, we're working, Sandy Riley, our communications coordinator, is really trying to help us expand our outreach efforts for those folks, because we want to be able to engage with folks and have them know how much we value them. So that's it. Just wanted to hit those 3 things today.
Thank you, Dr. Brett. Next, board dialogue topics and pending action consideration. Item 1 is the 2026-27 Finance Committee calendar draft. This calendar has been reviewed by the Finance Committee and district administrators, and approval is recommended. Any questions or a motion?
So moved.
Motion. Oop. Second.
Bonnie? Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And
The-
Andy, I know that Todd's not here, but thanks for putting the items of what are on the agenda. That's great.
Yeah, that was a good tip. Thank you.
The next item is a resolution to transfer funds from the working cash fund, and Todd can present any information if it's, no, he's not here, so he's not going to present any. But if anybody has any questions at this point.
Yeah, or I'm happy to speak to it too.
Could you just explain this real quick? What
Yeah.
this is for?
Sure. So we have, as you know, one of our benefits that we have for our employees is a flex spending account. And anybody who has a flex spending account knows that the way those typically work is you set up your flex spending account to be, you know, a certain amount of money, and then that money is withdrawn from your paychecks pre-tax over the course of the year, right? But one of the interesting caveats with the flex spending account is, you know, say you're taking out $1,200, it might take out $100 a month, but all $1,200 are available to you to spend immediately. So this happens sometimes when you get to a point in the year where folks have technically spent more of their flex spending account than they have put in so far at this point in the year. By the end of the year, that trues up because they can't spend any more out of their flex spending account than they put into it. But so basically what Todd's asking for is he wants to do a little temporary loan from working cash into this account because folks have spent a little more of their flex spending money than they've put in at this point, and then by the end of the school year, that money will get back in there, it'll get trued up, and we'll bring back a resolution to put that, actually we won't bring back a resolution to put that money back, because this resolution already promises that we will do that by X date.
Must be a lot of shoulder injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people falling apart around here.
I'm not going to say anything. Any other questions?
I'll make the motion to approve.
It has to be structured. Oh, here, pass that down. The motion has to be structured.
Here's the fancy motion to read.
You may read it. I was gonna do it, but thanks, Dan.
All right, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the loan of $10,000 from the working cash fund to the flex benefit fund pursuant to 105 ILCS 5/20-5.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Dan. See, I love to delegate. Yeah. Item 8, work study topics and future action consideration. The 26-27 preliminary resource textbook adoption, which is policy 6, semicolon 40. Contained in the packet is information from Assistant Superintendent Sims regarding textbook and instructional materials being proposed for adoption. No actions required at this time, but are there any questions? Do you have anything that you would like to say or anything?
No, other than just thank you for any support for the first item on there, which is our literacy recommendation. And again, kudos to that committee. They were with us. I'll make the old reference to who gets it through the good, the bad, and the ugly with 3 years of this work. So,
Yeah, I remember that one.
I would add these resources, as you'll recall, need to be on public display. Sometimes we've rolled the cart in, as you can imagine, with comprehensive literacy resources for all of elementary, plus all of the additional resources from the high school. There's a lot. So it's a very fine display upstairs by the one of our conference rooms that the public can come in and see. They'll be on display for the next month. And anyone can come see and review all of these resources that are outlined here. And this is an opportunity, this is our pretty standard process, and if folks have questions after reviewing them, or if you all have questions at a future meeting, you can get them to Mrs. Sims, and we would take it from there.
Barrett, I have a question. So is that something that the public would know about? I mean, I know that we are announcing it here.
Yeah, so it'll go in the district digest, so we'll put it in our weekly communication this Friday that those resources would be on display.
I did have one question, which doesn't necessarily need to be answered now, but I did notice that we had some German resources on the list, and that was something that we were questioning last year, or whether that was a class we would continue in the future. So I was just wondering, like, what our confidence is in buying a 3 or a 2 year resource for a class.
I can say with great pleasure that at both junior highs they have a full class of German 1, and at the high school they have a full class of German 1 in response to advocacy on the part of both staff and other German students. So we're doing fine with that.
And I might add, just to add to what Larry said, I think one of the things we know is that you'll recall when we had this conversation that we talked about ensuring that the program could sustain for anyone who started it, right? And so because we do feel strongly that if we're going to teach it, we want to teach it with the very best resources. And you might also recall that over the last several years, we've updated the resources for our other world language programming. Like you say, it's kind of a multi-year process here, but we know that once you start it, you're doing this for at least 5 years, because we want to maintain that for those kids who start. So, that's a long enough time that we would think, let's make sure we have the highest quality resources we can have for supporting those students. Does that make sense?
So the current materials are not sufficient, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I mean, German is German. I'm just trying to understand this.
Yeah, so I think, Mrs. Sims, I don't want to speak out of turn if you want to go.
yeah, so the new resources actually by the same publisher that has produced the new Spanish and French materials that we've been rolling up over the last several years. It has novels that are now used within the curriculum as well. It has some online components that were not part of the older curriculum that we're using. And the older curriculum, I don't know the exact date of it. I can get that for you, but it is dated in terms of, I understand German's German in terms of the language.
Yeah.
But
What makes it dated? I'm just curious. I mean, because the cost benefit of expending this kind of money, even though we don't know how long this cohort's going to last, I understand you have a full class, but what do you consider full class? I mean, a cohort, if you will, if you're going to start this and give it a 5-year run. How many students are we talking about?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get that for you, but enough that at each middle school right now, it's like would be one full class of German 1. So that's 2. So I think it's between 15 and 20 kids at each school, and then same at the high school for German 1, and then those students would roll up. And I think in terms of dated, I think the answer to that would be one of the things we learned about from our world language peers when we were kind of rolling out these resources in the other programs is it's a lot more about contemporary text. It's a lot more about seeing like actual kind of primary resources and not learning the language in the abstract. Like Mrs. Sims said, novels, contemporary videos, learning how to use the language in action.
Correct.
Rather than just kind of more purely academic,
So,
if that makes sense.
So you're saying the current materials are insufficient for those kinds of things? They haven't been learning novels or contemporary German literature? I'm trying to understand why they need.
The teacher has had to supplement
Yes.
Oh, okay.
to make that stuff
So
happen.
the district doesn't have the resources, so you're now going to have them through this. I
Correct.
see. Okay.
Ich spreche kein Deutsch, however. I've been following this pretty closely.
I know you
might
have,
imagine, and they definitely have a need for this curriculum, and I think they're well on track to utilizing it. I think they're well on track to using it for a long time.
Stephanie, I didn't know if I finished answering your question before. Seemed like you had more of a question.
No, I think you answered it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to the microphone. Okay, item 9, information. This is the board meeting presentation schedule. 2 is FOIA requests and board correspondence. 3 is the suspension report, all are in the book. There's no discussion required, but this is for your information. Item 10, the consent agenda. Item 1 is a personal report, resignations, retirements, leave request, changes in assignment, full-time equivalent, new hires. Item 2, monthly financials for February. Item 3, annual resolution for joint agreement as part of the Fox Valley, I just drew a blank on that, community cooperative. Career Center, thank you. The IHSA membership renewal. Item 5, gift grants and bequests for $3,435.67 for Fabian Elementary School PTO and SNAG. That's a new one on me. Starting new at golf. That's why I don't know it. Equipment. Item 6, gifts, grants, and bequests, $2,000 from the Humpke Group for the GHS Robotics Club. Item 7, a bid summary award for 2627 copy paper bid. And item 8, a bid summary award for the copier bid. Approval is recommended. Any
So moved.
discussion? Okay.
Second. Aye.
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 Aye. Item 11, board member comments and reports. Would anyone like to start? Or shall I just pick an end? Okay, Steph.
Well, thank you to everyone who presented this evening. I thought that was very helpful information from Dr. Barrett, and we've had a lot of those conversations, but nice to wrap or tie it all together as we continue further. And I'm so excited about the new reading curriculum, and I know that was so much hard work, but thank you so much. Congratulations to all of our students who we recognize tonight. Always wonderful to see different varying types of activities happening at the schools and ways to recognize those. For me personally, it's been a lot of wrapping up the winter, a lot of music concerts over the past few weeks that I've gotten to enjoy and experience. And now it's like full steam ahead into spring. So we have our next theater booster meeting coming up later this week as the theater department prepares for the spring musical, which is Chicago. So more to come. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I'd like to commend the presentation as well on the literacy. I just really impressed with the support of the teachers and the interconnectedness that I saw. That's really going to bode well as they expand to numeracy and these other areas as well. So I really appreciate seeing as we heard from Mr. Wilkes, Dr. Wilkes, the scope and sequence of this, that it's not just something that we're doing statically for 1 year, that it has a horizon, beyond the horizon, I should say. I also like to commend the swimmers, because that's something that was new to me. I knew that we had students that were involved in swimming, but it was good to see their excellence in the water, and knowing that we have a corporation with different districts, with the West Chicago area as well. So kudos to all that received recognition tonight. Thank you. And the parents, of course, most important. Yeah.
All right. I want to give a shout out to the literacy committee. That was a lot of work that they put in over many years, and to put together the pilot and get it out to the elementary schools so that we could actually see it in action and make an informed decision on that. So congrats, and also the fact that it was 100% unanimous that they wanted to go the direction that they did. I want to say congratulations to our students tonight. Again, kind of a mix of athletes and academics. So our DECA students, our swimmers, and then also to Lynn Forrest for her acknowledgement that she won that award for Spanish. It's excellent. I wanted to once again point out a presentation that was given during the Finance Committee earlier today. Adrian put together a really comprehensive look at our finances compared to some of our peer districts. Looking at the numbers, and including enrollment, things like student-teacher ratio, just quite a few different facts and figures that were in there, and I think it's worthwhile taking a look at that and just at least looking at the deck if you can, and listening to it on YouTube later. There's a lot of good information in there that kind of gives a snapshot of where our district is now and where we think things might be heading in the future. That's all.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, I just want to say congratulations to all the students that were here tonight. I think it's great to see not only sports students as here, but also the DECA. I think those are interesting things, and it excites the kids. Today we had one of our facilities task force meeting. The good news is at the end of spring break, all the projects for 2025 will be completed that we intend to have completed at this point. We're well on our way to being ready for our 2026 projects for the summer in terms of bids, and we're even starting to look at 2027 at this point and getting our plans ready for that. So kudos to our team there that is really doing a great job in bringing structure and direction to this effort for our maintenance of our facilities.
I would just echo what's already been said. Congrats to our Tradition of Excellence recipients. Shawnette, to you and your team and the committee for all their work, and also for the textbooks, recommendations. A lot of work goes into making sure our curriculum is of high excellence, so I appreciate all the time and energy that goes into that. So thank you, Shawnette.
Yeah, I really have nothing to add what everyone said. I think all the presentations tonight was excellent. What Adrian put together in the Finance Committee, I thought, as Jackie mentioned, something to go back to take a look at or to listen to, because very comprehensive in terms of the comparison between not only our district and surrounding districts, but also kind of gives a little foundation to some of the things that Andy talked about in his district boundary conversation. So a lot of those things tied together. So really good presentation that we all should listen to. The only question I have in regard to the literacy presentation, several meetings ago we had some elementary school, some young students that came by to talk about, is that part of the same program or was that a different, totally different?
That was a different program.
Okay, all right. That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you. A couple things to add. I certainly second everyone's comments about the teaching people to read. That's really fun. I was able last week to go to the IASB conference, the Kishwaukee division meeting. That was a long ways away at Harlem High School in McChesney Park, Illinois. The subject, however, interested me greatly. It was AI in schools, and the fellow who spoke was really quite an expert and makes a lifetime of studying this. And I think that as a result of that, I'll be talking to our policy person, and we'll be possibly working on some enhanced AI policies to try and keep up with what's happening there. The other thing I had a chance to do this week was at Heartland School. They had an event for students called Crepes and Art. And they had an art teacher and one of the former French teachers from Geneva making crepes for the students, and they got to taste them in the French style. And also actually a local sculptor who presented information to the students about art. It was a very interesting presentation on both counts, and I certainly think the students enjoyed it. It's already been scheduled for next year at the school. So I think things are going well, and very pleased with all that we see. Last item here is notices and announcements. That's not going to require anything at this time. So item 13, executive session to consider matters pertaining to collective negotiations, matters between the public body and employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning the salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. For this, we need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. We'll be going into executive session now, which means thank you all for coming. And we'll undoubtedly have results of this later, but probably not announced. So no further action will be taken.